if you want to know what it's like to fight the mafia, all you do is have to watch television, because it's exactly like they do it on TV. I was at the FBI for 20 years, and most of my career here in Kansas City, I was involved in white-collar crime. No, let me take that back. I investigated white-collar crime. I wasn't actually involved in white-collar crime myself. In this particular case, we were going to a bookie's house here in Kansas City. Now, someone taking bets, and we had different priorities back in 1988 when I first joined the FBI. But we show up at this bookie's house, and the agent who's in charge of the case takes the bookie into a side room, and he starts interviewing him. The bookie's being cooperative. My role in this particular investigation, then, is to gather all the bookmaking materials that's at the bookie's desk. And I'm sitting at the bookie's desk. He's got all his betting papers there and all the lines and everything associated with his gambling operation. And I'm starting to mark it as evidence. And it's a Sunday morning in 1988. It's roughly September. And so we have football in session. Baseball season is ongoing as well. And I'm at the bookie's desk. What do you think happens next? The phone rings. Thank you very much. So the phone rings. So I don't know what to do because I'm relatively new in this job as a special agent with the FBI. And I look over at the agent. I said, "Excuse me, the phone's ringing. What would you like me to do?" He goes, "Go ahead and answer it." So I pick up the phone, and before I tell you what happened next, I got to back up just a little bit. About 15 years prior to that, when I was a teenager, I grew up in a town in Connecticut, and my dad was a business owner. He owned a variety store, a small retail operation. And in this variety store where I worked for my dad as a teenager, we used to have, we sold newspapers, and one of the newspapers we sold was the New York Post. The New York Post was famous because it had great sports pages, and it also had the betting lines in those sports pages. And so these guys used to come in my store, my dad's store, on a regular basis, like clockwork, about 10:15, shortly after the paper arrived, and they would flip about 3 pages into the New York Post where you'd find all the betting lines for that particular day. And these guys would stand around my dad's store, and I'm a teenager, 13 or 14 years old, and I'm listening to the conversations. They were deciding who they were going to bet on that day. The guy said, "I'm going to bet on the Yankees today. They're plus 7.5." Or another guy would say, "I'm betting on the Giants today. They're -3." And another guy would talk about betting a parlay on 2 different teams. And I'm listening to these conversations, and I'm learning the parlance and the lingo of betting. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So after a few months and a few years of that, I leave Connecticut, become an FBI agent. I am now in Kansas City. I am at the scene of my first search warrant. I'm at the bookie's desk. The phone rings. The agent says, "Go ahead and answer it." So I pick up the phone. I say, "Hello." The guy says, "Who's this?" So I wasn't prepared to do an undercover operation at all, so I just said my real name. I said, "Jeff." And I expected him to hang up the phone. You're not going to give personal information to someone you don't know on the phone that you're talking to, right? He doesn't care that it's Jeff. He goes, "Jeff, what's the line on the Chiefs today?" So I remembered from my days working for my dad and hearing these guys talk, I knew what those lines meant. So I looked down at the bookie's page, and he had on his paperwork the line of the Chiefs. And I looked at it, and I said, "Chiefs are -3. How much you want?" Wait a minute, this is 1988. Chiefs are plus 60 points. I said, "Chiefs are -3. How much you want?" He goes, give me 100 on the Chiefs." I go, "You got it." So I take down his bet. Next guy calls up, "What's the over-under on the Vikings today?" I look down, it goes 41-43. "How much you want?" He goes, "Give me 100 on the over." "You got it." Next guy calls up, he goes, "I want to parlay a bet with the Bengals and the Giants." And I think that's a stupid bet, actually. So I go, I was going to say, don't take that bet. But he goes, "How much?" But I knew what a parlay was. It pays 12-5. I remember from my dad's story. He goes, "How much does it pay?" $50 pays 120. "You got it." So I'm taking down all these bets, and no one is questioning the fact that there's a strange guy named Jeff answering the phone taking these bets, except for the FBI agent who's still listening on the phone because we got the phone tapped, and he's in the FBI office, and he puts down his headphones. He goes to the guys in there, "Hey, we took out this bookie, but now this is another bookie named Jeff answering the phone." One guy was so concerned, not for his information, but only that he wasn't going to be paid. So he asked me, "Jeff, look, I don't know you. I don't know you at all, but I get paid on Tuesdays. If I win my bets, they come over to my house and pay me on Tuesdays. My name's John Smith. I live at 333 Maple Street." He goes, "You're coming over to pay me on Tuesday, right?" I go, "Don't worry, John. We'll be over. Don't you worry about that at all." Finally, one guy is circumspect, and he does what I recommend people do: question people before you give them information if you don't know who it is, over the phone, in email, and in person. So one guy says, "Who's this?" I say, "Jeff." He says, "Jeff who?" So I wasn't going to lie. I go, "Jeff with the FBI." He starts cracking up because that's hilarious, Jeff. That's really, really funny. Give me 100 on the Chiefs. That was my day as an FBI bookie. And you know, I learned through that people are they're giving information out too readily. So next time you talk to your bookie, please make sure it's your actual bookie that you're talking to on the phone, and don't bet on KU anymore in the future as well.